When Schaefer came out with a new fountain pen, I was really quite excited. It's been a while since I haven't purchased a new Schaefer, and I really like the shape of the new Schaefer icon that they introduced. Personally, I haven't really been excited with a lot of things coming out of Schaefer, especially since Cross kind of took over Schaefer. They don't really like a lot of their designs. However, this one kind of hit on me, basically. As in, this is pretty much the classic Schaefer fountain pen that I fall in love for a long time. As you probably can tell, I do love Schaefer fountain pens, especially the classic ones. And I like the shape of this one. This one reminds me a lot of Schaefer PFM. And especially I really like the clip that they reintroduced, the military clip, which pretty much means that you can put it inside your pocket all the way to the cap. I mean to the top of the cap. And this fountain pen in theory will disappear under your shirt, right? The clip is really nice. It's very pretty much like this. Kind of disappears, right? And the clip is really springy and quite usable. I like it. Overall, I do like the shape of the fountain pen, especially the color combination that comes in it. Personally, I was attracted by this red and black trim. And there are very few things that I'm actually disappointed on this fountain pen. I think the biggest disappointment is when you actually open the pen, and while the section is actually quite nice, and it feels really well in the hand, the biggest disappointment that I have is the nib. I'll get into more details about it soon. But I think the first disappointment is that basically, considering that Schaefer has been one of the fountain pens that introduced at least two of the most iconic nibs out there, having a generic nib like this feels a little bit daunting. I mean, as you probably well know, the inlay nib, it's one of the greatest looking nibs in my opinion. Diamond shape. Not to mention the Triumph nib that they introduced as well. Even the sort of a more modern Preludes nibs, I kind of like them. I like their chunky size, like short and stubby, and I really love their feeds and their writing experience. So bringing this nib that you can find it on the generic dollar pen feels a little bit weird. Other than that, the feeling in the hand, it's actually pretty good. I like it. Even capped, even though personally I usually don't use fountain pens capped, even capped, this fountain pen actually is really well balanced. I like it. I mean, with the cap on, the balance is somewhere in there. So if I take the cap off, the balance doesn't change much, just a little bit, like this. So from here, about here, which is not bad at all. It's pretty good. Now, unfortunately, things that I don't like that much. One of the weirdest things that I found on this fountain pen is that, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show, but somewhere at the bottom inside the barrel, basically at the bottom, there was a very odd thing. Where did I put it? Oh yeah, found it. It was this spring. I was doing pretty much nothing. It was just sitting in there at the top and rattling. It wasn't sitting all the way in here or pushing down on the converter. Even when I added a cartridge on it, the spring wasn't touching the cartridge at all. It's kind of hard to show, but basically towards the bottom in there, there's like a plastic lip somewhere somewhere around here, basically, that plastic lip. And that where the cartridge sits on, and the spring was just basically below that, right after that. And it was just sitting in there and rattling. I have no idea what's the point for that spring, so I just removed it. It doesn't really need it. The converter in the cartridge hangs into the section very well. They're not going to come out very easily. Another odd thing that I noticed about it is this little section over here on the section, like this ring. I don't know, I don't know what the purpose of it is, but it moves. It's actually spinning, which is kind of odd. And at the same time, it has a really weird design. It has like a hole in there. It's like it almost looks like there's supposed to be like an O-ring in there. It's really odd. Most probably if you drop it in the ink, you're gonna collect a lot of ink in there. Not sure how well it's gonna work over time if ink gets in there, and ink and metal don't work very well together. Another thing is when you actually put the barrel on, probably will be hard to see this because it's black on black. This ring actually spins as you tighten it down, which is odd. Other things that the most annoying thing though, it is the nib, because as I was working with it, what I noticed is that, and I'll try and show it you somehow. The nib on the paper, if your hand is a little bit heavier and you put a little bit more pressure on it, the nib actually moves sideways. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to catch it on camera. There you go, it wiggles left and right. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure. If you're very light, you won't feel it. But if you push a little bit more as you write, you'll feel the knock as you change direction, which is slightly annoying. See, it wiggles right there. I never had a nib like this wiggling. And the weird part is that it wiggles left to right, but it also bounces up and down. So this thing kind of rotates 360 degrees with not much of a pressure, which feels like a design flaw to me. I was actually planning to change this nib with a gold nib. I have a spare gold nib, but I don't think I'm gonna do it for this one. It's a little bit daunting. Other than that, the nib, it is how it is. It's a little bit, not very scratchy. It sounds scratchy, but it's not scratchy. I didn't put ink in it yet. I usually like to test the nibs like this. This way I can tell very easily when a nib is scratchy and where it needs to be modified, if I need to do anything on it. But everything seems to be smooth. So if you write very, very light, you don't put a lot of pressure, it's actually quite nice. But once you put a little bit of pressure, if your hand is a little bit heavier, I think you can see it, yeah. So basically it wiggles left to right. And as you change direction, you'll feel like a knock in your hands. It might get annoying a little bit after. But it's a nice fountain pen, overall. Alright, let me ink it up, see how it writes. This will be actually my first inking. I didn't ink it yet. Since I'm gonna do a drawing with it, I'm gonna use Noodler's black ink. Always forget to do this. Alright. Another other thing is when I got a pen, I wonder if this pen was returned, because when I washed it, there was some blue ink coming out of it, which was kind of odd. I don't know if they tasted at the factory or somebody bought it. They were quite disappointed, as I was. Bought the nib and then they just returned it. I still like it. I don't dislike it that much. Still like the fact how it looks and all that. I'm not gonna return it. I'm gonna keep it. Okay. It looks like the red got stained a little bit by the ink, but it seems to be cleaning up nicely. Oh, another annoying thing is like this barrel. It's wiggly. Those. I don't think I've seen any bad threads as these are on this pen. When I compare it with the other fountain pens that I have, I like Shepherd fountain pens. Okay, so this did got. Hold on, give me a second. It'll bug me. Let me put this away. Huh, it looks like it did stain it a little bit. The section. Maybe. Anyway, let me put this on. This away. Okay, so just a small, quick writing sample just to get a feeling of it. So the nib gets a little bit dirty. I guess you could clean it, but I'll leave it like that for now. Seems to be pretty well for what it is. I mean, this paper is not the best paper. Okay, seems okay. But yeah, that nib really wiggles in there. Alright, well, I'm gonna do a quick drawing with it, see how it feels. I'm gonna actually speed up that portion. What I'm gonna do is a small sketch, nothing too special. Oh, I dropped stuff. It's like a berry sitting on a snow. So the test will be like to see how it actually lays down the ink. I have a black border to fill in. Then, well, like a small berry sitting on, I guess, some snow, but I'm gonna staple shadows and stuff just for the fun of it. So I'll have dark, medium, berry. This will be a very light, probably white to gray, very light gray, medium dark again, and full border black. And then I'm gonna come back with my opinions. That's it. Thanks. Okay, I'm back. I haven't finished drawing. It takes me a little bit of time. I'll finish it offline and then I will post it on Instagram, my Instagram account, if anybody wants to see it. So, final thoughts on this fountain pen. I like it. I can't really complain that much. The pen feels really nice in my hand. Well balanced, no issues with drawing. Even if the nib is not very inspiring, I actually have no issues writing with it. I mean, drawing with it. It puts lines on the paper without any issue. Doesn't really skip a bit. Not much to say otherwise. Because my hand is pretty lightweight on a paper, I don't really feel the wiggly part of the pen, as in how the nib would wiggle down on paper. So again, that might not be an issue for all of you, but might be an issue if you have a heavy hand. I mean, I was trying to do the borders, and the pen works actually quite nicely, not an issue. But because it's a very fine line, it's hard to cover a lot of ground with this nib. So I try to actually speed up the work using mine 0.70 technical pen. But I ran out of ink on that one too. So I was like, whatever, I'll finish it later. So I did the top border and bottom border, and it seems to work fine, not a problem. The specks of white dots that you're seeing here is not because of the pen had any issue, it's just that because the line is very fine, it's hard to cover every single basically millimeter on the page. So I might skip one or two, but then I come back and redo them. When drawing this, shading it and hashing it, literally no issue. It was working without any problem. The dots the same. I mean the staples. The stapling seems to be the same, and I can actually get very sort of a fine dots. And then if I press harder, actually I get like heavier dots, which is kind of good if you're trying to do like transition or whatever. Anyway, this is gonna take actually quite a long time, and I'll finish it out off camera. I'll post it on my Instagram if you wanna see it. I mean, nothing special, just things to try out and see how get a feeling of the pen. Overall, I do like the pen. Not an issue with it. One thing that I forgot to mention is this barrel is not actually basically straight from here to here. It kind of bows a little bit and then bulges at the end. And I've noticed that it's not quite perfect. In some parts it bows more than others. It might be hard to see it, but you probably see like this shade in here. That's where it kind of bows, and in there it seems to be like the hardest, and then on other parts it's very smooth, you don't really see it. So the barrel is not perfectly straight. But anyway, do I recommend this pen? It's honestly up to you. I've seen that in Canada it sells anywhere between $64, $70 to $120, depending where you're buying it from. I got it for around $67 Canadians from Amazon. I'll be honest, if I'll pay around $120, probably I will kind of regret it. At $120, you can definitely find better fountain pens that are better built, and they even come with a gold nib, if that's your thing. So if you see it at around $60 and you think it's worth it, go for it. Otherwise, if you see it for more, personally, I would recommend not to. Otherwise, it's a nice pen. Nothing much to say about it. Nothing really special. Nice nostalgia. The shape really takes you back to the old classic Shepherd pens. Anyway, thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you next one. Bye.